never imagined the day I gave my daughter everything she asked for would feel like a betrayal. From the moment I handed over the last check for the wedding venue, I thought about her smile, her excitement, the way her eyes would light up when she imagined her perfect day. I spent months coordinating, calling vendors, negotiating prices, even secretly upgrading the catering to include all her favorite dishes. Every detail, every flower, every note of the music, I made sure it was flawless. The morning of the wedding, the house buzzed with energy. Bridesmaids rushing around, makeup artists fussing over every curl, the scent of roses and fresh coffee filling the air. I peeked into her room and saw her in that pristine white gown, her hair glinting in the sunlight like spun gold. I felt a lump in my throat, proud and a little emotional. My daughter, my little girl, ready to step into a new life. But there was a tension behind her eyes I couldn't place, a coldness I hadn't seen before. I brushed it off, telling myself nerves made people act strange. I lingered by the doorway, waiting for her to finish. When she finally turned toward me, the smile I expected never came. Instead, she looked at me like I was a stranger. I don't know you. Get out, she said, her voice sharp and icy, cutting through the hum of celebration. My chest tightened. My hand froze in midair, the flowers I held trembling slightly. I wanted to protest, to ask her what she meant, to remind her of everything I'd done, but no words came. I felt my heart sink as if it had just been shoved into a cold, dark place. Around me, laughter and music continued, oblivious to the storm that had just erupted in my life. I had paid for her entire wedding, every penny, every dream she had whispered in the quiet of our home. And now, on the most important day of her life, she didn't want me there. I stood there, stunned, feeling like a ghost in a world I had built for her. The room seemed to tilt, the perfume and music turning sour in my senses. And in that moment I realized this day wasn't about her happiness or mine. It was about the chasm that had grown between us, one I hadn't even noticed until it was too late. I stepped back, clutching the bouquet like a lifeline, unsure if I should retreat or confront her. Around me, the chatter of the wedding staff and the soft notes of the string quartet felt surreal, almost mocking. Her bridesmaids froze mid-step, exchanging awkward glances, but no one spoke. I just want to enjoy my day, she added, her tone dripping with something I couldn't quite name. Resentment, disgust, or maybe years of unspoken anger. I swallowed hard, the lump in my throat making it difficult to breathe. I paid for all of this, I said, my voice trembling, not with fear but with disbelief. I wanted it to be perfect for you. I thought you'd be happy. She shook her head, a bitter smile flickering across her face. You don't get it. You never get it. This isn't about the money. I don't need your approval. I don't need you here. Her words stung worse than any slap. I felt heat rise to my cheeks, a mixture of anger and heartbreak. I had imagined this moment hundreds of times. The tears of joy, the laughter, the hugs. Instead, I was being rejected in front of everyone. I wanted to retreat, but my pride and maternal instinct held me there. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my shaking hands. I know I've made mistakes. I know I'm not perfect, but I am your mother. I've been here your whole life. Don't you remember that? She looked at me, her eyes cold, yet flickering with something that almost seemed like guilt, then turned away. I said, get out, please. I backed towards the door, feeling every eye on me. Some guests avoided my gaze. Others stared, whispering. I felt small, exposed, like a character in someone else's story. As I stepped out into the corridor, the faint scent of lilies and perfume followed me, a cruel reminder that the life I had built for her had become a stage for my humiliation. Outside, the air was heavy and warm. I could hear laughter and music filtering through the walls, a celebration I wasn't allowed to partake in. I sat down on the steps, heart pounding, trying to make sense of what had just happened. How could she, my own daughter, speak to me like that after everything? And in that moment, as the sunlight glinted off the glass doors behind me, I realized the wedding wasn't just about her marrying someone else. It was a declaration, a severing of the bond I had cherished. I knew this was only the beginning. I stayed on the steps, my fingers gripping the edge until they ached, listening to the muffled laughter and clinking glasses behind the doors. Then, something inside me shifted. Not anger, not despair, but a quiet determination. If she wanted to humiliate me publicly, I wouldn't let her have the entire story. I stood, smoothing the wrinkles from my dress, and walked back inside. The room seemed to pause when I entered, like the music itself had frozen. All eyes turned toward me. My daughter's jaw tightened, her hand gripping her bouquet as if it were a shield. "I'm here because I'm your mother," I said, my voice steady, louder than I expected. "And no matter how angry you are, I will not be erased from this day." Whispers rippled through the crowd. Some guests exchanged uneasy glances, while others looked genuinely shocked. Her fiancé stepped forward, confusion written across his face. "Is everything okay?" I met his gaze and nodded. "Yes, everything's fine, but some truths need to be spoken." I turned back to my daughter. "You say you don't know me, but I know you. I've held you when you cried, cheered when you succeeded, and fought for every opportunity you've had. I paid for this wedding because I love you, not because I want control. But love doesn't mean I disappear when it's convenient for you." The words hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. Guests murmured, some shifting uncomfortably. Her cheeks flushed, a mix of anger and shame, and I saw it, the first crack in the armor she had built. I, she started but stopped, her voice faltering. The crowd waited, the tension thick. I didn't back down. "I won't be treated like a stranger at my own daughter's wedding. If you need space, I will give it, but I will not vanish quietly. I deserve that respect." Her fiancé stepped closer, taking her hand, but I could see the conflict in her eyes. I realized then that this day wasn't only about her wedding. It was about her stepping into adulthood, about facing the consequences of her choices, about seeing me as more than just a provider or a background character in her life. She looked at me, silence stretching between us, heavy with unspoken memories and regrets. And for the first time that day, I saw hesitation replace anger, a flicker of recognition, a tiny acknowledgement that maybe, just maybe, she did remember. The ceremony hall was quiet now. The music paused, as if everyone could feel the storm brewing between us. My daughter's eyes darted around the room, looking for an escape, but there was nowhere to run. I could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her grip on the bouquet tightened until her knuckles turned white. "I've done everything for you," I said, my voice calm but firm. "Everything, from late-night tutoring, paying for your college tuition, to this day. Every penny, every effort. And now you stand here telling me I don't exist?" Her lips trembled. For a moment I thought I saw tears forming, but instead, she drew a shaky breath and straightened. "You don't understand," she snapped. "Everything you've done, it's suffocating. You think money makes up for everything else, for all the times you weren't really there." Her words hit like a blade, precise and cutting. I felt the heat rise to my face, the sting of truth mingling with the shock. She had been carrying this resentment quietly, letting it grow until it exploded at the worst possible moment. "I have been there," I said softly, stepping closer. "Maybe not perfectly, maybe not how you wanted, but I've been here. And this rejection, hurts more than I can say. I'm not here to control you. I'm here because I love you." Guests shifted uncomfortably, sensing the raw honesty in my voice. Some looked sympathetic, some embarrassed, but all were watching. The tension in the room was palpable, a thin thread holding the moment together. For a heartbeat, she looked at me, really looked, and I thought I saw a flicker of the little girl I used to know, the one who had hugged me when she scraped her knee, the one who whispered secrets in the dark of night. And then, like a storm cloud, her anger returned. "You don't get it!" she yelled, and her voice cracked. "I wanted my own life. I didn't ask for your money. I didn't ask for your help. I didn't ask for you." The words were sharp, raw, and devastating. I took a step back, my heart breaking in slow motion, but I didn't move away. I needed her to hear me, to understand. "I hear you," I said, my voice steady despite the tremor in my chest. "You don't want my money, you want my love. And you've always had it, even if you didn't realize it. But turning your back on me won't change that. I'm still your mother. I always will be." Her fiancé put a hand on her shoulder, hesitant but grounding. I could see the conflict in her eyes, the battle between pride and love, resentment and recognition. And I knew then that this was the turning point, the moment when our fractured relationship could either shatter completely or begin to heal. I waited silently, letting the weight of my words sink in. The room held its breath with me. After the heated confrontation in front of the guests, the room gradually returned to the wedding celebration. But I didn't move back into the crowd. I stayed near the edge, watching my daughter as she fidgeted with her bouquet, avoiding everyone's gaze. I knew I couldn't force reconciliation in front of an audience. It had to happen alone, quietly. Later, after most of the guests had settled with drinks or small talk, I found her slipping toward the garden outside, trying to catch a moment of solitude. I followed, keeping my distance at first, letting her know I was there without crowding her. The warm evening air carried the scent of blooming jasmine, and the faint buzz of conversation drifted through the glass doors behind us. She leaned against the railing, arms crossed, looking out over the manicured lawn. "I can't believe you just stood there," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "You embarrassed me." "I know," I said gently, approaching closer. "I know it wasn't easy, and I know I didn't handle everything perfectly, but I couldn't just walk away. You were hurting, and I needed you to hear me." She turned, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "You don't understand how suffocating it's been. Everything you did for me felt like a weight I couldn't shake." "I understand now," I said, my voice steady, filled with the weight of years I hadn't realized she'd carried alone. "I didn't see it then, but I see it now, and I'm sorry. I never wanted you to feel trapped. I just wanted to give you the best." Her expression softened just slightly, like the first crack of sunlight through storm clouds. "But I pushed you away," she whispered. "On my wedding day." "I know," I said, taking a small step closer. "And it hurt. But we're still standing here, aren't we? That means something. It means we can still fix this. Not tonight, maybe not fully, but we can start." She looked at me, her defenses slowly crumbling. The anger, the resentment, the hurt, all still there, but mingled now with something fragile, recognition and maybe even gratitude. I don't know how," she admitted, voice trembling. "I've been angry for so long. I didn't think I needed you. You always need love, even when you don't realize it," I said softly, reaching out. She hesitated, then took my hand, gripping it tightly, a silent admission that maybe, after all the pain and pride, she still wanted me in her life. For the first time that evening, I allowed myself a small, relieved smile. This wasn't the perfect ending we both imagined, but it was a beginning, and sometimes beginnings were stronger than perfection. We returned inside, the music resuming like nothing had happened, but everything had changed. My daughter stayed close to me, her hand brushing against mine, a small but deliberate gesture. She smiled, just a flicker, when the photographer asked for family photos. For the first time that day, she introduced me properly to her friends and relatives, not as someone who paid for the wedding, but as her mother. It was small, almost imperceptible, but I felt it deep in my chest. Recognition, respect, a fragile thread of connection rebuilding. And in that moment, amid the laughter and clinking glasses, I realized that even a single gesture could begin to heal years of unspoken pain. Later, as the night settled in and the lights twinkled over the garden, my daughter came to me quietly. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice almost lost in the hum of celebration. "For what?" I asked, heart tightening. "For staying. For not giving up on me," she said, her eyes glistening. She hesitated, then hugged me tightly, resting her head against my shoulder. I felt her warmth, her hesitation, and her love all at once. We stood there for a long moment, letting the noise of the party fade into the background. It wasn't perfect, far from it, but it was real. She had finally allowed me into her world, not as a stranger, but as her mother. And in that embrace, I felt the first true sense of peace that day. The reception was in full swing, but for the first time, I wasn't on the sidelines. My daughter had found her place beside me, and I could feel the shift in the air. She laughed openly, a genuine sound that reached my ears like sunlight breaking through clouds. She introduced me to friends I hadn't met before, shared stories of our past in a way that made me feel included, not invisible. As the evening wore on, I watched her dance with her new husband. She caught my eye and smiled, a real, full smile. And for the first time that day, I felt seen, not just as the woman who paid for the wedding, not just as a mother trying to control, but as someone she trusted, someone she needed. Later, as we gathered for a final toast, she raised her glass to me. "To my mother," she said, voice strong and steady, "who never gave up on me, even when I acted like I didn't want her. Thank you for everything. I love you." A hush fell over the crowd for a heartbeat before applause erupted. My chest swelled with a mix of relief and pride. I held back tears, but they came anyway, sliding down my cheeks as I stepped forward to hug her. "I love you too," I whispered into her hair. "Always." The rest of the evening passed in a blur of laughter, dancing, and shared stories. Guests commented on how beautiful the wedding was, but I knew the real beauty wasn't in the flowers or the music. It was in the bridge we had rebuilt between us, a bridge that took a lifetime to construct, shattered in a moment, and then painstakingly repaired. Later, as the night wound down and the last guests left, I sat with my daughter on the veranda, watching the city lights shimmer in the distance. She rested her head on my shoulder again, this time without hesitation, and we shared a quiet moment of understanding. "I'm sorry for everything," she murmured, her voice barely audible. "I should have never treated you that way." "You're forgiven," I said, stroking her hair. "We both have grown. Today wasn't perfect, but it was ours, and that's what matters." She smiled, and in that smile I saw all the years of love, pain, pride, and forgiveness reflected back at me. The wedding, the drama, the heartbreak, it all led us here, together. As I looked at her, I realized something profound. Love isn't about perfection. It's about persistence, patience, and showing up, even when the world or your own daughter tries to push you away. And that night, with the city lights glowing and my daughter finally letting me in, I knew we had crossed that divide. We weren't just mother and daughter in name. We were allies, confidants, and most importantly, family. For the first time that day, I felt whole.